everybody, welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. You're chopping it up with Chuck. I'm the editor-in-chief with Cannabis and Tech Today. This podcast is brought to you by our very generous sponsors, Polyscience and Summit Research. And we always bring you the best guests. We are coming to you live from MJ Biz, or it might be almost live by the time you see this. And today's guest is, I'm very excited. We actually met in Berlin, and we talked about how we could collaborate, and I'm excited to finally get him on the show. We have today Todd Scattini with Harvest 360. How are you, Todd?
I'm great. Thanks, Chuck. It's good to see you again.
Great to see you, man. You probably thought I was lying to you when I was like, we're going to do this. We're going to talk. And, like we just got busy and everything.
Absolutely. Life happens. We're moving at the speed of marijuana, which is really fast.
Dude, didn't this year go fast?
Yeah.
Freaking flew by.
So I look through my camera roll, I see all these places that we've been traveling. I mean, the cannabis business keeps you moving, you know?
Well, and you've got your hands in lots of areas of business, right? You want to tell the audience kind of what you do and what you're doing in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit complicated because I do a lot of stuff in terms of activism. I do a lot of stuff in terms of business as well. But my origin story is a little bit different as well because I started in the military. I enlisted in the Army at 19 and didn't leave until 27 years later. I was lucky enough to get accepted to go to West Point. I graduated from there. The Army taught me 5 different languages. I served as an armor officer for a decade, and then I became a foreign area officer, which is a military diplomat, someone who's trained to focus on particular regions of the world to give strategic advice to our general officers, our ambassadors, our president, and things of that nature. So I was really lucky. I got to live for 15 years in Europe in 6 different countries and go to Afghanistan a couple of times, which was very interesting, and my life certainly changed there. It was there that I really started looking at cannabis as something other than a drug or a problem, and saw it as an opportunity. I was working on a really special staff in Afghanistan. I was working for the commander of the International Security Assistance Forces, or ISAF, the largest military coalition that's ever existed. 50 nations were there. And we were asked as this special staff to come up with creative ways to provide solutions or create an economy of scale for Afghanistan. And I came up with this idea to transition them over to a hemp industry.
Yeah.
Right? 25,000 different uses: food, fuel, fiber, building material.
There?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they grow cannabis in large swaths. Their cannabis production has increased tenfold since we arrived there in 2001. So I don't know what the DEA was doing. I think they were passing out fertilizer or something. But, I thought it was a genius idea. They already knew how to grow cannabis for high THC. They could also grow hemp for fiber or herd or all of things. And I thought it was genius, but I was, laughed at and called Cheech and Chong for a while. And, but it really it kicked me off on this. And I knew that I wanted to get into the industry. I started following the evolution of legalization and created my company in a manner that could kind of help keep up with it, and be a part of it and be a driver in it. I started off as an activist, and I'm still a very proud activist. Yeah. I was part of Kansas City NORML during the prior to legalization in Missouri, where I live.
Yeah, that just happened, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is for medical, and, and then we just legalized for adult use.
Right.
I'm part of that as well, and now we're focused on Kansas and Texas. Because, I go anywhere that veterans don't have access to medical cannabis, and I'm going to fight for their right, because I see, we're a population that is in, serious distress. We have over 22 people a day committing suicide, and 10 more who are overdosing. We have a serious substance abuse issue, both in our ranks and in the veteran population, and I think that cannabis can be a solution to that. And I think it's important for, the Department of Defense, for the VA to start looking at this as a real option.
Yeah, and I'm a veteran myself. 11 Bravo, joined when I was 18. I was in a light infantry unit, rapid deployment force out of Fort Lewis, Washington, and I didn't really have much experience with cannabis until I got out of the Army. I mean, I had always smoked, with my buddies and stuff like that. I tried not to do it too much in the Army because, I was worried I was gonna, get a piss test, and I was gonna piss hot. But no, I did it just because it felt good. Now I understand, just like you said, that there's a lot of veterans that have issues, right? And they go to the VA and they get prescribed medicine that has side effects. They get prescribed stuff that, can be addictive. They get prescribed things that sometimes, you mentioned the veteran suicide crisis, sometimes the VA is giving veterans medicine that it says, warning, may cause suicide.
Exactly. Increased potential for suicidal
How
ideation.
fucked up is that?
Increased potential for depression, and you're like, that's why I came to you, doc.
Yeah.
You know, actually, so my wife also gets her care from military doctors as well, and she once asked a doctor, what do you think about medical cannabis? And he says, oh my God, that's gonna, you're gonna become addicted to that, you're gonna have depression, and very likely gonna commit suicide. And then provides her a prescription of a product that says increased potential for depression and suicidal ideation, and it's
crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing how this plant can be so triggering for so many people. But the fact of the matter is, the military and the VA, they really don't have the vocabulary to have the conversation about cannabis. So education and filling that education gap is really important.
Yeah, and I think that we just had Veterans Day, which for me is kind of I like being able to go to the different restaurants, and they have free meals for veterans, and you see a guy from like Vietnam wearing his hat, you see a dude from World War II, like it's just really cool to see some of those older vets, and to be able to kind of have that. But other than that, everybody says thank you for your service, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
You get free meals one day a year, and you get thank you for your service, but no real help for veterans' issues, and everybody supposedly is for the vets.
Right. And so I think that's why cannabis is like this one space, this one moment in time that we're in right now, where the VA, the Veterans Administration, who takes care of the 9 million veteran patients, the DOD, they should really be on the forward-leading edge of cannabis research, all the way from industrial hemp and the ways that it can be used for food, fuel, fiber, building material, medicine, all the way to understanding what the implications are of the adult use of cannabis, like we have in Canada, for example. A NATO ally has had the adult use of cannabis for like 4 years now.
Yeah.
And from what all reports, the sky hasn't fallen yet.
Yeah, are they like crashing their planes?
No,
driving their tanks off cliffs?
No, actually,
falling asleep.
I've spoken to some of those leaders who were commanding troops when legalization took place there, and they said, the thing we really noticed was guys weren't coming in so hungover in the morning. Guys weren't they weren't wrapping their cars around telephone poles, from driving drunk. For all of the phone calls that I would get at 3 a.m, they're not to tell you that your soldier just won Soldier of the Quarter. They're usually, come get your soldier out of the pokey. And it's never because of weed.
Yeah.
It was always because of alcohol. Alcohol is a major contributor to, poor order and discipline and disciplinary issues within the ranks. And so I think cannabis, one of the things I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, is that people who consume cannabis really reduce their consumption of alcohol. And I think that would be a benefit overall.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's it's just interesting to me, going back to what I was talking about, don't thank me for my service. Vote for someone who's going to help me, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm tired of the platitudes. I'm tired of the parties who use the veteran as a symbol, right? Hey, we're for the veterans, and then they go vote against benefits for them from burn pits, right? Like that pisses me off. I'm so tired of them pretending that they are for the vets. But when it comes down to putting pen to paper, when it comes down to passing legislation, when it comes down to actually helping vets, they're dicks. They just don't care. And
I think they just don't understand what that opportunity is, right?
Yeah.
It's up to us to paint the picture for them of what it could look like, right? When you think about the VA, they are the ideal organization to help make this transition from the pharmaceutical medication and those type of treatments to medical cannabis, right? Yeah. This is the largest healthcare system in the United States.
Wow.
The 9 million patients get their care from the Veterans Administration, and family
I'm one of
members.
them.
Me too. 150 VA hospitals across the country and in the territories, 1,200 VA clinics. And there are 40-something states now that have medical cannabis. So they're authorizing the doctors at the VA to speak to veterans about medical cannabis, but they're not asking the right questions. Right? They're missing the opportunity to complete what is probably the world's largest human trial on cannabis, because they're not asking, how much cannabis do you use? What kind of cannabis do you use? Methods of administration, how often, where, how much are you spending on your medicine? And most importantly, what has been the impact for you? How does it make you feel? You know?
Yeah.
I always feel like Private Miller, the opening scene of Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
Oh my God, where he's like, well, this stuff is
Bill
the
Hader.
bee's knees. We should be shouting this from the rooftops, man. You know?
They're like, that guy's got to go.
Exactly. Remember when they like cart him away
Yeah.
because they're like, this is illegal.
You know, and the funny thing is too is they don't think it's medicine.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? They think like maybe if we'll let them, you brought up that it's better than alcohol. So
Right.
they're looking at it as just something, to take the edge off. But it really is medicine. There's proof.
Yeah.
Literally, you can see someone having seizures and you give them a little bit of cannabis oil and it stops immediately. That anyone can see.
Yeah.
And it seems like, we've got to get over that hurdle so that everybody recognizes this is medicine. It's not just Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
This is like, this has really got medical benefits.
And so the way I address that is with education, right?
Yeah.
So I've been dropping off books to leaders that I think could be well informed on cannabis. One of them is a book that was written by our chief medical advisor at Harvest 360, a guy named Dr. Philip Blair. He's a retired colonel, retired doctor. He's a West Point graduate as well from 1972. And he wrote this book called Medicinal Cannabis and CBD and Mental Health Care. And it's this huge compendium of kind of where we are. It goes through Cannabis 101, and then kind of where we are in terms of research and our understanding of how cannabis works on mental health. And I've given that to some influential people. I've dropped it off with the Army Wellness Center at Fort Leavenworth, and they were so excited to have it because they deal with veterans who are coming in from Missouri, where we have medical cannabis. I've dropped it off at the Army Substance Abuse Program as well, and they're the ones who do the whiz quizzes. And they also, we're pouring through it. They're like, this is amazing. They're actually pointing things out. They're like, oh my God, this works for sleep apnea, and this works for back pain, and wow, we should be looking into this. I've dropped it off at the U.S. Embassy in Berlin when I was there, and I saw you at the International Cannabis Business Conference.
Shout out to ICBC.
Absolutely. Alex and those guys are amazing, and all of those shows are phenomenal. But I dropped it off at the U.S. Embassy there and spoke with the Department of Trade and Commerce about cannabis and IP and technology and things that are going on in the industry. And, again, very warmly received. So I think that's the way you combat all of this. You educate so that they have the vocabulary to have the conversation and kind of paint the picture of what it could really look like. That's why we talk about Hemp for Victory a lot. That's a nonprofit that I helped start, the Hemp for Victory Foundation. Our mission is to really set the stage for conversations. Wherever cannabis expertise and military leadership intersect, Hemp for Victory is there to have a conversation, either in an online forum or in person like we did last year. In November, we had the Hemp for Victory mixer after the Army Air Force football game in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. It was at Troy Aikman's bar.
Yeah.
We had over 350 active duty military personnel, veterans, family members, general officers showed up.
Yeah.
And we were talking about cannabis, and we talked about it from the context of history.
Yeah.
That's why I call it Hemp for Victory.
Yeah.
Right? You're familiar with the 1942 program where the USDA did a program called Hemp for Victory when we lost access to hemp from the Philippines.
Yeah.
Right? And we recognized that we couldn't finish the war effort. We needed hemp fiber for belts and tents and all this other stuff, so we allowed farmers to once again grow hemp. It was the first time that we re-legalized cannabis for military purposes, right? Because of military necessity. And in my view, when we've got a suicide crisis like we do in our veteran community and within our ranks, right? People are ignoring. They think only veterans are popping themselves in the mouth. No, it is active duty military personnel. The suicide rate has increased by over 50% since COVID.
Wow.
And those are big numbers.
Yeah.
So we've got a crisis. We're in a moment of military
more veterans
crisis.
have died by suicide than have died in war.
Absolutely. Since 2001, more have died by suicide, without a doubt.
It's crazy to think of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hemp and cannabis can solve so many problems. Something else too. Maybe if they're looking at the bottom line, it's probably expensive. The VA costs a lot of money for the government to take care of these veterans and aging veterans and stuff like that. And maybe if they looked at, well, shit, this stuff works. They like it better. There's less side effects, but it saves us money.
Yeah.
Maybe it could save them money. Yeah. From the budget.
I mean, think about it. Like, I left the military on a prescription I had a prescription for 8 different medicines.
Jeez.
Right? And so now I'm on one medicine.
Yeah.
And it's Flonase. Right,
Yeah.
because the weed hasn't cured my allergies yet, but the other I pay for myself, and it is cannabis. And usually I get veteran-grown cannabis out of Missouri because we have home grow there.
Yes.
That's another thing that I've seen really is like the true therapeutic benefits of cultivating cannabis on your own.
Yeah.
Right? Home grow. I've seen, I have a neighbor across.
Too.
I have a good story. I have a neighbor across the street that I met 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Left the military, left the Marines with post-traumatic stress and an injury. Became a prison guard, which that's just like a box of fun, right?
Yeah.
Got attacked in prison and beaten severely, so left with more injuries, more PTSD. Became, really addicted to alcohol. And when we re-legalized cannabis in Missouri for medical use, I helped get him a card. I helped get him cannabis, and then I helped him get a grow license so he could grow at home.
Wow.
And so now every time I see him, he goes, "Todd, you saved my life.
Yeah.
This plant is saving my life.
That's
I don't drink at all." And his wife grabs me by the sleeve and she goes, "Todd, you saved my marriage.
Yeah.
You saved my marriage." And now they grow together and they manufacture edibles for her mother. So his mother-in-law. So if cannabis can cure your relationship with your mother-in-law, this stuff can do anything, right?
Yeah. No, man. You have me at hello. I'm just I'm just a guy who believes in it as well. And I just, again, I really want to go back to the fact that this can help veterans, and everybody says they're for the veterans. So, what can we do? What can the people watching at home do? How can they, if they say, yeah, I agree, Todd and Chuck, these guys are pretty smart. Weed should be able for veterans. What can people do?
Well, first, I think people can vote their minds, right?
Yeah.
You cannot be pro-veteran and be anti-cannabis.
Right.
There is no way.
Yeah.
I truly believe
a great quote
that.
right there.
Yeah, you can use that one.
Yes.
But
yes,
I
it's a pulp
believe
quote.
it,
Yeah.
But as an industry, I think what we can do is when you have a veteran that's working for you or you're a veteran-owned business, lead with that.
Yes.
Talk about it. Raise your voice.
Yeah.
The veteran voice will break the back of prohibition. Absolutely break the back. I mean, we started in the 90s the AIDS movement in California. And those were veterans, by the way. Jack Harrer was an Army veteran. And so it was really started during the 90s. Then in the 2000s, Charlotte Figi shows up. Army brat, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but Charlotte's an Army brat. Her father's was a Special Forces non-commissioned officer.
Wow.
And so Charlotte Figi's mom, Paige Figi, when she was having intractable epileptic seizures, she went out and found the Stanley brothers who made the strain Charlotte's Web for her.
Yeah.
And now, though, and still we couldn't legalize on a federal level, but now it's the federal government, like the veterans will do that. I truly believe that because the veteran voice runs through every element of our society.
Do we have
elected
good lobbyists
officials
for veterans?
I don't know.
Because that's what gets things done.
Yeah, exactly.
It's money.
Yeah, exactly.
The public sentiment's great.
True.
And I don't think people vote on real substantive issues. It's just tribal, right? You vote for everyone in that tribe or everyone in this tribe. Yeah. And half the time they don't even deliver anything, right? Mm-hmm. Or they do bullshit like, where they didn't want to pass the burn pit, legislation to give benefits to veterans. So I think people need to vote.
Well,
I think, are there organizations people can support?
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. So the Hemp for Victory Foundation is one and we're dying for support. We're just starting out.
Okay.
And we're looking for corporate sponsorship. We're looking for people who see the value of hosting this conversation between the cannabis community, meaning all of the expertise and the industry and the veteran population and the military population, to host that conversation like you host this conversation, right? To provide those platforms where, we're speaking virtually, we're speaking in person, right? They could be events up to 1,000 people all the way down to a table for 4. If the people at that table for 4 are influential and can make decisions, then that's effective, right? So that's the idea of what Hemp for Victory is doing.
So are you optimistic? Biden, when he came out, a lot of people were like, oh, he didn't really do anything. But I think it was pretty significant that a sitting U.S. president said cannabis might not be bad, and maybe these people shouldn't be in jail for it, and maybe we need to look at, descheduling or something like that. Do you think that that he's really behind that? Or do you think he was just kind of a midterm thing? He's sort of, as people say,
Well,
you got to appease the stoners.
Yeah, I think it was I think most politicians, at least the smart ones, recognize that weed is way more popular than they are.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm surprised the Republicans haven't jumped on this issue because it's
they have,
personal
actually.
freedoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them.
They have one in particular, Senator Nancy Mace out of South Carolina. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yeah.
She put forth federal legalization language that is going through now.
Yeah,
She's the first female graduate of the Citadel.
Yeah.
Right? And has a really incredibly compelling story. You know, she's a rape victim from 18, right? Women have the highest rate of PTSD than anyone. Everyone looks at the veterans, but it's really the women who deal with a lot of PTSD. And she suffered from rape and became a cannabis consumer and is now a very proud cannabis patient and has put forward federal legalization language that is actually really sensible. You know, and she's a Republican. So
I love it.
Politicians are recognizing that this plant is a great uniter. It's a really great uniter, and because
creates jobs, it helps people.
Absolutely, this is a paradigm shift. The re-legalization of cannabis is so much more than getting high. And people boil it down to smoking weed, and it's so much more than that. Right. The impacts of the re-legalization of this plant are hitting on areas of social justice and fairness and social equity within the cannabis industry, which is something I focus heavily on. Economic impact on the international all the way to the individual level. People are creating legacy in the industry, and countries like Germany, are the fourth largest economy on the planet. They're legalizing for adult use. There are sustainability gains that we're making, major advances in the cultivation and manufacturing of the plant. But the most important that I see really is health and wellness. And this huge shift. The VA and the DoD are perfectly positioned to help lead that the way that we have since the inception of our country. Really, I truly believe that. But it's an amazing time that we're in. I feel very fortunate.
Well, let people know how they can get a hold of you, because we got to wrap it up. I could talk to you all day.
Absolutely.
But they're giving me the hook. I'm getting the red light. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to do some business or they want to find out more about Hemp for Victory or whatever?
Yeah. So you can find me on all platforms. Real name Todd Scattini, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter.
Okay.
And I'm pretty active on most of those. You can find my company Harvest 360 at harvest360.co.
Okay.
You can find the Hemp for Victory Foundation. I think it's hemp4victory.org. I'll have to confirm on that. But but that's one. And like I said, I'm on LinkedIn, and my company Harvest 360. I didn't talk about what we do actually professionally, but we write license. We help people enter the industry all across the country, and we've been doing it very successfully. We focus on social equity applicants, women, and veterans. And we've been doing a great job. We coach people and we help them then become multi-state operators and eventually international operators.
Wow. Yeah. Well, dude, you're a man of many talents. I look forward to more collaborations with you and doing stuff with you. And it was a pleasure having you here.
Thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, everybody, we are done. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe, follow the conversation. Make sure you follow Todd, follow Canatech today, and don't forget our wonderful sponsor, Polyscience and Summit Research. They're the ones that keep the lights on around here. And again, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe. We're available pretty much any place you can get a podcast. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. You've been chopping it up with Chuck. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Hey, hello, I'm Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong. Wait, you didn't think people would know who I am? Durachill. This is Durachill. This is Durachill. This is Durachill. No, hey, I don't talk like that. You want me to sell this? Buy it. Try Durachill or else. If you want something really nice in your laboratory, buy Durachill. You can't go wrong.